Hi guys, Modrzew here. I would like to share with you the idea for a deck that I created, which I made for fun, but it is surprisingly well in the last Fellowship PC tournament, giving me second place with 3 corruption wins. The deck I'm talking about is of course my Pipes and Tentacle corruption deck. So let's have a look at the cards. The main goal of this deck is of course corruption win. It can also win by overwhelm, but you cannot hope, I think you cannot hope to win with your fellowship. The main purpose of this fellowship is to survive so long that the tentacles can corrupt the enemy. As for the companion choice, it was rather easy because the Pipes deck works best with Frodo Signet companions, so that was what I was going for. I decided to place Legolas in this fellowship, Greenleaf. He is a bit worse in his base form than in the base game, but equipping him with a bow of the Galadrim, which is pretty cheap, I think makes him even a better archer, machine gun archer than the last version of Legolas Greenleaf. And he is in the starting fellowship together with Sam, the faithful companion, who, because of his fellowship skill, is our pipe wit dealer. We will be using him for taking our possessions, which are mainly our pipe wits from the deck, to help it cycle faster. The other companions in our fellowship, I think the most important here is Aragorn, heir to the White City. He is one of the worst Aragorns from all the cards we can choose, but he has the Frodo signet, so I picked him. His skill is not so important here, but we want to have him in our fellowship. Be as fast as possible, because what we are going for here, because the pipes give us a lot of healing, and with that we can exert a lot of times and heal that later. So what I'm going for here is an archery deck where Aragorn and Legolas are machine gun users. Legolas using his basic skill with some double shots, and Aragorn using of course his Aragorn's bow with additional arrows from Gondor bowmen. So with them having to exert so much, having the pipes to heal them is awesome. And the last two companions in this fellowship, the more important Gandalf, he is more important because he has some strength of his own, and also he can carry a pipe. And the last one as a more of a support companion, or companion that I play when someone else dies, is Boromir, who can of course help hobbits survive the fights, and if something goes really wrong, he also can carry Aragorn's pipe as a backup. So in our starting fellowship we start with Legolas and Sam. We try to go first to get Aragorn from the prancing pony, but we can get a lot of burdens at the beginning, like 3 or 4 burdens, because later during the game, thanks to the Gandalf's pipe, we will be able to get rid of the burdens. So as I said earlier, the fellowship task is to survive, so we are not going to be running too fast. It's also preferable that the enemy will outrun us and he will be going first. So after starting the game, taking Aragorn from the Prancing Pony, I suggest going only one side at a time to let the opponent pass you. So you will be able to play your sides, which are beneficial for our shadow part of the deck. But let's focus on our fellowship for a moment here. This fellowship can survive pretty well because of the amount of arrows it has and quite low shadow points generation. And it has just enough resources to survive to about, I think, 6th or 7th side, but it should be totally enough. So don't be afraid to use resources available to you. Use them only to survive and stop at the next side. You don't have to take any risks with this fellowship. So for the what about pipes? Yeah, so what our pipes are doing. Frodo's pipe will be healing one of our companions from the lot of wounds. So it's great if you, for example, had to use Aragorn to shoot 3 times with his bow. On the next side, you will be able to just heal him using 1 pipe whip. Oh, that's also an important thing, because you use pipes in Fellowship. That's another reason why you want to go only one side at a time. So when you get wounds from shooting, you can just heal them easily with Frodo's pipe if it's one companion heavy heal, or Aragorn's pipe if you want to heal many companions one wound at a time. Gandalf's pipe we use, of course, to remove burdens, to evade Enquea. And Gaffer's pipe is here not for its ability, but rather just to be able to spot more pipes. I put only 1 pipe for each hobbit, because Sam is able to take an hobbit item from our deck every turn, so it's not a problem to find those pipes. As for the pipe width, I'm using, of course, Old Toby because it allows us to draw cards faster, and 2 long bottom leaves to be able to reconcile cards, unnecessary copies of the cards that we won't be able to play, like for example 2nd Aragorn's bow, 2nd Aragorn's ranger's sword, or even Cyrano and Dam if we have too much of them in hand. One additional card I use is the We May Yet, a new event from V1. That works great with pipe deck because it gives a companion strength, +1 strength for each companion with the Frodo signet you can spot, and as we are playing with Frodo signet Fellowship, it always gives us +4 strength. Yeah, okay, so that's the Fellowship. So as I said, Fellowship only has to survive and help with card draw and discarding unnecessary cards. As for the better part of this deck, which is our shadow side, after I saw the new cards in V1 set, I really wanted to make the Tentacle deck corruption, to make it work. I tried really hard, and I think I got somewhere. So the tentacles I choose are the Foul Tentacle, which is great because it can create a chain that allows us to play all Foul Tentacles on one side and 1 additional tentacle. It's great for drawing cards from our deck from helping us to get what we need. The probably most important tentacle in this deck, but surprisingly easy to avoid by enemy, is a Thrashing Tentacle, which is fierce, and when it loses a skirmish, it adds a burden, or 2 burdens if you cannot spot a burden. So it creates a funny situation for our opponent, where he wants to lose the skirmish with this tentacle probably. But it can be tricky, because when you're building your fellowship, you of course want them to have as much strength as possible, and it usually creates a situation where the only companion that can lose with Thrashing Tentacle is Frodo himself, and losing skirmish with Frodo against these decks is also not optimal, which I will cover in a second. Next tentacle which we really need in this deck is Vile Tentacle, which is the only tentacle that can be played on a side other than Marsh, and by using its ability it can discard a card, Moria card from your hand, to change the current side into Marsh, so you will be able to play other tentacles. But hopefully you will not be using this skill a lot. But it also helps to discard unnecessary cards, so I sometimes use this ability only to get rid of the cards that are blocking my hand. And the last tentacle is a Wreathing Tentacle, which allow us to get tentacles that got discarded back into play. The last minion we are using is of course the Balrog, because as in the Fellowship there is always the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, it's always fun to meet the Balrog there, and he also helps us get some additional burdens. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the main problem with tentacles is that they need marshes to be able to be played at all. In the whole Fellowship block we have only 2 marshes. It's the second side, Midgewater Marshes, and fourth side, Moria Lake. Fortunately in V1 there was added a very important card that helps circumnavigate this problem, and it's a Cyrano Dam. It's a great artifact that causes all rivers and sites with no other terrain keywords gain marsh. So it simply allows us to play our tentacles on all sides on the path. It was ruled some time ago, just before the tournament, that sanctuaries are not a terrain keyword, so sanctuary with no other keyword is also changing to marsh, which is really helpful because it allows us to play other third side than the forts that were giving the enemy free Nazgul. And also it helps with the sixth side. The Cyrano Dam have, however, one minus. It gives all companions in the enemy fellowship Defender +1, which is usually not good for us, because if enemy can assign 2 tentacles to one companion, it gets really hard for the Thrashing Tentacle to lose, and it have to lose to give a burden. Also, we want our tentacles to be wounded because of the Out of the Dark Waters condition, which allows us to, if our tentacle gets a wound, we can stack it to this condition, and then we can play those tentacles from this condition as if from hand. So if our tentacles are not wounded and just discarded, we may have a problem really fast. Also, this condition has a built-in prevention from being discarded. If this condition is about to be discarded, discard 2 tentacles stat here to prevent that. It's great, but it's usually, if enemy has something to discard this condition, he will probably do this before you are able to stack tentacles here. So it can also be tricky to keep those conditions in play. Okay, so how... Oh, okay, so maybe one additional support card is Dark Places. I put it in the deck because it allows us to replace the site on the path to our marsh, and it works with the Cyrano Dam, which changes all sites to marshes, almost all sites to marshes. So it allows us to change the site, every site on the path for our version of this site. It works great with, for example, second site, because if we are going first, the second site will be that of our enemy, and then we can change it to our marsh to be able to play tentacles. Later in the game, if enemy is going first, it's not a problem, but I keep it there from the times before the ruling about the terrain keywords. It had much more use then, but I still keep it just in case. It sometimes helps to be able to change the site. For example, the 7th site, which discard every ally, we are not using any allies, so if we are going first, we can then change the site so that enemy has to discard all his allies. So, how are we giving burdens to our enemy with this deck? First and most easy way is, of course, the Balrog on 5th side with Must Do Without Hope, which allows us to give usually 1-2 burdens per game. Depends on the draw, but it's usually 1-2. I wasn't able to give 3 burdens, but that's okay. With Tentacles, we have few ways to give burdens. First, of course, is the Thrashing Tentacle. If it loses a skirmish, it gives a burden. Pretty easy to understand. The other, more the way that it's easier to give burdens because enemy cannot prevent that in any way, are the guided by one purpose cards, events. So if you can spot 3 tentacles in a shadow phase, you just add a burden. And I use this card only that way. It has the second part that you can make the 3 people player discard a tentacle to shuffle a Moria card from your discard pile into your draw deck. I'm not using this ability. I don't think it's good for the corruption version of this deck. I think it's better with Watcher in the water deck. So I only use the first part of this ability just to give burden. You can chain even all 4 of these cards one turn. Use it as soon as you are able to, because you will be using those cards more than once, thanks to Foul Things, which allows us to play a Moria card from our discard pile. It doesn't have to be a minion, it doesn't have to be a condition, it can be event. So if everything is going according to plan, you will use those cards to play Guided by One Purpose again. If something is not going according to plan, you will use it to probably play Out of the Dark Waters if all of them were discarded, or Thrashing Tentacles if they were discarded, because I'm pretty sure you need those even if they are not giving burdens, because it gives enemy something to think about every skirmish phase. With this setup, So we can give 4 burdens with Guided by One Purpose, 3 burdens for Foul Tentacles, that's 7, 1 or 2 burdens from Must Do Without Hope, that's give us around 8, 9 burdens that are, let's say, 100% sure to be given. With Trashing Tentacles, it's a 50-50. Sometimes you will give some burdens, sometimes you will not be able to if enemy plays smart. And for example has a Gimli or Legolas without any equipment so that they can lose the fights with Trashing Tentacles. And I found with this setup that I usually was lacking like 1 or 2 burdens to win the game by corruption. So I started searching for an ability to add some more, and I found a great card that I don't think is really used in any other deck. It's Lost to the Goblins. Response event: if the ring bearer exerts or takes a wound, discard a card from the top of your draw deck for each Moria minion you spot. For each shadow card discarded this way, add a burden, limit 3 burdens. So first of all, tentacles are really cheap. They can chain themselves from draw deck, and you can stack them on a condition to play them from it later. So it's usually really easy to play at least as much tentacles as there are companions, usually even more. So you can be almost sure that Frodo will have to fight some tentacles at least once, twice, or even more during his journey. And when he does, he will probably lose and take a wound. And when he takes a wound, you can play Lost to the Goblins to discard a card for each tentacle, and there are usually 3-4 tentacles on the table, and give a burden for each shadow card discarded from the deck this way. In my experience, this card usually easily gives the limit of 3 burdens, and it can really change the situation, because even if the enemy plays carefully, allows Trashing Tentacles to win, removes burdens in some way, then it is a really surprising card that can change the game completely. Also, even if you did not play enough tentacles so that the Frodo have to fight, he usually will fight, because he usually will be the only Fellowship member that will lose the fight with Trashing Tentacle. So the enemy, not wanting to get a burden, will assign Trashing Tentacle to Frodo. Frodo will lose this fight, get a wound, and then you play Lost to the Goblins to add 2-3 burdens. So that's the... one more thing. Cyrano again. So as you can see, if you want to try and maybe overwhelm Frodo, or at least make him create the situation that the Frodo have to fight with the tentacle to play Lost to the Goblins, Cyrano will work against you, because it gives Companions Defender +1, so it will be harder to make Frodo fight the tentacle. That's why I learned to not play Cyrano unless I have to. So I usually try to work with the Vile Tentacle that can create marshes on every side, and keep the Cyrano for the ending. But it can also be tricky, because if you create marsh with Vile Tentacle, then if the enemy moves again in regular phase, all your tentacles will discard, because the next site will not be marsh. So it's a bit tricky to decide when to play Cyrano. Sometimes you can even win the game without playing this card, but usually you will have to. Okay, so that's about it, and let's go and see a replay of my last game with this deck that I think shows in a great way how is it working. Okay, so here is the replay of my last game with this deck. As I said earlier, I am starting the game with bidding a lot of burdens, 3 in this case, because I really want to be able to play the Prancing Pony and start with my Aragorn. However, in this case, my enemy outbid me. He is unfortunately not playing the Prancing Pony, so I will be starting without Aragorn. I know I will have to go with my Fellowship even slower than usual, but the opponent starting with 4 burdens is a good news for my Tentacles and corruption potential. This game I will be playing against the Dwarves with pretty heavy deck, so I know he will be cycled through it probably rather quickly. And I will be starting with my usual Fellowship, Legolas, Greenleaf and some faithful companion. Unfortunately, Aragorn we will have to find during our journey. My starting hand looked pretty well. It's always good to have must do without hope in your starting hand, because you want to get at least 1, probably more, before side 5. However, 2 Aragorn bows and Aragorn's pipe without the possibility to play Aragorn is not too good, even though we found Gandalf and his pipe. So I decided that 3 dead cards in a starting hand is not too good. Also, I don't have any Moria card that will allow me to play Tentacles without a marsh, so I decided to mulligan this hand. And this hand looks a bit better. We have possibly 2 dead cards. We've lost to the goblins, not really playable in the early game, and Aragorn's pipe. But all the other cards we will be able to play, so it's not a big problem. Okay, sorry for that. So, our enemy started with playing Bilbo from his draw deck. As you can see, he exerted to do that, and I immediately got an ability to play Lost to the Goblins, but of course it will not work. But unfortunately it can be a hint for the enemy that something is happening, yeah, so because he exerted and he can see that I have a response, but that's okay. But Bilbo is another bad news, because Bilbo can discard conditions, and it will happen later. Yeah, so the enemy is playing Bilbo, he is playing more dwarves, Bounder, not really so important. And I'm always glad to see some additional strength on companions, because every strength above 6 is a companion that is unable to fight Thrashing Tentacle, because he will win with the Thrashing Tentacle and cause it to give Frodo burden. Our first side, it's a marsh, it exerts Hobbit, again, we have a response possible. I start with playing Dark Places. It's a condition that you always play if you have it. There is no reason to keep it in your hand. And to cycle a bit through my hand, and because it's a marsh and I play Thrashing Tentacle to maybe be able to give a burden, or more probable just to give 2 wounds because it is fierce. Enemy fortunately knows how to play against this deck, so he led the companions with less strength, fight the Tentacle, get 2 wounds, 0 burdens, not a problem. I'm not discarding any card, just collecting a few more. Enemy decides to go another side, and because it is not a marsh, our Tentacle gets discarded. That's not a problem. We just pass, let the enemy go to the Sanctuary. We got a pretty good draw with Gandalf and his pipe. Unfortunately, the second Lost to the Goblins is a really dead card to us, so I discard it, getting another companion. Not Aragorn, but Boromir is still able to hold the Aragorn's pipe, so it's quite good. I use some to take an item from the deck, and at the beginning I'm always taking old Tobis, just to be able to use them to draw another card, to cycle through my deck faster, to find the importance card faster for my Shadow. Nothing special here, just 2 frying pans for our hobbits, Gandalf with his pipe, and Boromir. I decide to play all of it, first of all to cycle through my deck faster, second of all because I have the We May Yet, so I feel pretty confident that I will be able to survive with +4 strength on one of my companions. My enemy plays Moria. Usually with Moria and Archery it's, I think, 50-50, because if he will not get the armory fast, there is no problem. You can just shoot the goblins, no problem. Here with 4 goblins, I really don't feel threatened, but I still use Legolas to shoot one of the goblins to make it easier for me. Second arrow from the Legolas kills the second goblin, and both of my fights are won, so I decide to go another side just to be keeping up with my enemy. If there is no risk, you can just go, don't worry, but if there will be risk, it's better to stay, nothing to worry about. So it looks like a pretty standard Moria deck with Relics of Moria, nothing to worry about, we survived. Yeah, so our another draw, more cards for Aragorn. His sword and bow are pretty dead to us right now. I have 3 bows in my deck, 2 swords, so I know I can discard them. There is no problem. 2 conditions we can just play, so they will not stall our hand. And we found Must Do Without Hope, so it's always a nice card before side 5. Our enemy, of course, opponent, of course, heals. He equips his dwarf. Oh, and this is a card I hate to see. Sam, Son of Hamfast. He is, of course, a bit weaker than in the original game, but still he has a quite easy way of removing burdens. He can exert, he and another companion has to exert to remove burden. He then also exerts second time. But every burden removal is making the game harder for us, so I'm not happy to see him, but as the enemy started with 4 burdens, it's not so bad. Of course, enemy immediately starts to remove burdens as he's exerting Frodo. I again had the ability to use the Lost to the Goblins, but with 0 minions on the board, it's not a great idea. Enemy starts playing cards that will help him to cycle through his deck, and he started doing it. He really had some bad luck with it because it took some time before he discarded some weapon to take, but he finally found it. And as I said, I'm always happy to see companions getting over the strength of 6, so that they will be winning with Thrashing Tentacle. And my opponent decided to discard the condition. That's okay, it's not an important condition. It of course gives 1 strength to Balrog, it helps us, allows us to change sides, but if we are going second, these sides will already be from our deck, so it's not a problem. It's our second and the last marsh on the path. So I use this opportunity to play the Tentacle. I'm not worried that the second side will not be a marsh and the Tentacle will be discarded, because side 5 in our deck is always Balrog. Here we can see the opponent using the event to kill our Tentacle without having to fight it. Really good decision. Without fighting, I cannot add burdens with this single Tentacle, so it's a good decision. Also, getting Gimli build to the strength of 6, also a good decision, because now he can lose fights with Thrashing Tentacle. As I said, I'm discarding the Aragorn's Bow because I know I have 2 more copies in the deck. And pretty good draw, because just before side 5 I get second Must Do Without Hope. It makes the corruption just a bit easier. Also, Rethink Tentacle, if everything goes okay and I will be able to put it on condition, then playing it from the condition will allow me to get 2 Thrashing Tentacles that were discarded back into the game. Opponent decides to go another side. Of course, I'm playing Balrog from my deck, mostly to be able to get those 2 burdens on Frodo. And the thing with this deck, if you know you are playing against my Tentacles, you probably will try to have your companions have no more strength than 6. But then comes Balrog with his 17 strength, so you probably have to deal with losing 2 companions. Opponent decides to lose some, which was a surprising decision. I think it was a wrong decision. If you're playing against Tentacle and you know that they are corrupting, please don't let your Sam die. He will save you from Tentacles. But my opponent decides to kill Sam and Dwarf Guard. It's okay. I'm just drawing. Second, Ranger's Sword. Not a good side without Aragorn. But that's okay. We can just draw one of them. The more important thing is that I draw out of the Dark Waters, so I can start. I can stop worrying about losing Tentacles to the discard, because if they will be wounded, they will just go to this condition, and I will be able to play them indefinitely. As I'm on the Sanctuary, I go for the heal. I will use some to get the item. Again, Old Toby to draw another card. It's a bow for Legolas. That's great news, because now with his base health he can shoot 3 arrows, 2 from his ability, 1 from his archer, in 1 turn. So that's great, especially that I don't have Aragorn with his bow, so Legolas will be the only archer. Boromir with Gondor Bowman also can do some stuff. We're just going. We're exerting Frodo, of course. Goblins are getting in our way, but as I said, we are giving not so much shadow. There are no important conditions yet, so I'm not really worried. Goblin Scimitars that early, always a good sight for Goblin player. And here comes Enquia. Knowing that there is Enquia, I am pretty glad that I bidded only 3 burdens, and it's an information for me to not play the 6th character. Even if I get Aragorn, I will not play him immediately, because I know Enquia is there. So yeah, even with a small shadow, goblins of course can be played en masse, but that's not a problem. We can just use Legolas to snipe some goblins. Now with bow, he only takes 1 exert for 1 arrow, so there is no need to worry. I decide to use Gondor Bowmans. As I said, don't be afraid to use your resources with this deck. You want to play it safe. I let Legolas win with the goblin, and then thanks to his bow, when Legolas wins a skirmish, I can wound a minion, so Enqua left with 1 health will be going down, also without a fight. I decided not to move. I can see my fellowship and I know I'm not ready to face Balrog, so I decided to stop. As I said, no need to take any risks. I will be dropping 1 of Ranger Swords, and I'm start to get more tentacles, which is great news. Especially Vile Tentacle, because as I said, we passed all of the marshes that are on the path, so I need Vile Tentacles and their ability to create new marshes of my own. Enemy is killing Bilbo, equipping his dwarf once again, building his fellowship, and he's moving to the side 6, which is a river sanctuary. Great for making marsh with Siranondam, but this time I will be making a marsh with Vile Tentacle. Even with 10 Shadow, you can play 5 Tentacles, so that's great. And I will be using, of course, Vile Tentacle to discard second Vile Tentacle to be able to create marsh on our sanctuary, so I will be able to play other tentacles. And I'm start Wreathing Tentacle to be able to get those discarded tentacles, and Foul Tentacle, while being played, allows us to play another tentacle from our draw deck. So it starts a bit of a tentacle train, but this time Shadow is so small that I'm just getting Thrashing Tentacle. And this, with just 10 Shadow, we played 4 tentacles. There is no Siranondam, no Defender +1, so Frodo needs to fight. Opponent, not wanting to get burden from Thrashing Tentacle, assigns Tentacle to the Frodo that will lose the fight, but by losing the fight he will get a wound, which will allow me to play Lost to the Goblins, which will be a great show in this situation. Of course, other tentacles will lose. One important thing, Gimli with 11 strength was fighting with a tentacle with only 4 strength. He is overwhelming it, so of course the tentacle losing the fight is not getting wounds, and because of that I am unable to get it back on out of Dark Waters. It's also an important thing playing against tentacles. If you can, overwhelm them so they will not be able to go on the condition. Vile Tentacle, for the purpose of Lost to the Goblins, I should leave it on the table, but I know in this situation Vile Tentacle is my only way to create marsh, so I decide to play it safe and with just this 1 wound to get it back on the condition, so that I will be able to play it on the next side. And here, Frodo is losing with Thrashing Tentacle. I was thinking if it's a good play to use Lost to the Goblins with only 2 tentacles, but using it with more tentacles also have its downside, is that you are discarding 1 card for each minion you spot. So if you have 7 tentacles, you will discard 7 cards from your deck, and there isn't really so much so many cards that you can discard without playing them in this deck, so you don't want to discard too much cards. I decide to play it, and I'm lucky, because both cards that I discard are shadow cards. So with only 2 tentacles, I'm able to give Frodo 2 additional burdens, getting him to 6 already. Cards that I discarded: Dark Places, really not important if you're going second. Cyrano, it would be good to have it in hand already, just to be safe, but it's not a big deal. I have 2 more in the deck, and we're already played almost half of the deck, so there should be no problem getting another one. As for our draw, another Aragorn bow, not a good thing. But what I really see in this hand is Guided by One Purpose, which will allow us to start giving burdens for just being able to spot 3 tentacles, and Foul Things to play Guided by One Purpose one more time. However, there is only 1 tentacle, plus 1 from our condition, that's 2. Fortunately, Foul Tentacle will be able to play other tentacles from the deck, so no worries here. As for the Fellowship, nothing unusual. I use some to play Old Toby to be able to draw another card. Always go for the draw. Longbottom Leaf, very good because I have 2 cards that I want to get rid of. Playing it allows us to discard 2 cards from hand. That will allow us to cycle faster through our deck. Here I use Aragorn's Pipe because I'm pretty wounded. I have already 4 pipe widths. I can spot only 2 pipes, but that's no problem. With 1 pipe width I will be able to heal 2 companions. So I use it here because I'm pretty sure I will be facing Balrog, so I want to be able to face him as well as possible. As I was saying, use those resources, don't be afraid. You are aiming just to get to the side 6, nothing further, so use those resources. Enemy use Foul Things to play a Goblin. Totally opposite strategy from what I am using it for. Goblins, of course, there will be a lot of them, but they are pretty weak, so no problem. Opponent decided, fortunately, not to play Balrog. Fortunately for me, because I was really not ready for him. But that's still a pretty large amount of minions for this Fellowship. No worries, we have our Legolas that can just shoot the strongest minion, and then we are able to survive. I'm not afraid to put a bit stronger minions against our hobbits, because in this deck we have Frying Pan as a counter to goblins, so no problem here. Hobbits can just deal with them. And also, if anything goes wrong, I know I have We May Yet that will give +4 strength to one of my companions. So even if enemy use some events to booster his strength, I know I will survive. Nothing unusual here. I decide to play the event on one of the fights just to get rid of it, to have more place for my tentacles. I decided not to go another side. I don't have to take any risks. My Fellowship is not going to reach Mordor anyway, so they can just chill. We get another Out of Dark Waters. It's good to have more than one, just to be safe. I know there is Bilbo that can discard those conditions, so it's good to have more than one. I got another Vile Tentacle. It's also good to have the ability to create marsh, especially that I don't get Siron on them yet. My opponent is healing, discarding my condition with his tail, So it's really great that I got another Vile Tentacle. Without it, I would not be able to create Marsh and play anything. His Fellowship is expanding. He cycles through his deck searching for items, that's okay. Playing this deck, I'm not really concerned with how strong the Fellowship is. To be honest, the stronger it is, the easier it will be to corrupt it with Thrashing Tentacle. And here we go, my favorite side for this deck, Undoing Confluence. Bilbo, no longer a threat to us because he will be discarded, so I know that with Out of the Dark Waters and Vile Tentacle, I am no longer worrying about not being able to play Tentacles. I just want to play as much of them as possible. They are cheap and they can be played really fast. With Foul Tentacle, that can play another Foul Tentacle from the deck, which can play another Foul Tentacle from the deck. The Tentacles can pretty easily threaten overwhelming of the Ringbearer. But in this situation, it's of course not enough, so I'm just focusing on Thrashing Tentacle. I use Foul Things. In this situation, I decided to use Foul Things to play Cyrano Dam. I'm pretty sure I will not be able to overwhelm Frodo, because dwarves, there are a lot of them. I know they can snipe my tentacles with their hand axes. It can make me kill some of them. So I decided I'm not going for Overwhelm, I'm going for Corruption with 6 burdens already. So I played Cyrano Dam. I gave the an opponent Defender +1 on all his companions. I know what I'm going for, and I just want to stop him a little, because if I would not play Cyrano Dam and he would go on another side, all those tentacles would be discarded. I play Guided by One Purpose to add a burden. I decide not to use the second part of the of this card. I don't want opponent to be able to discard my tentacles. Here I am able to put my losing tentacles on the Out of the Dark Waters. I'm pretty happy with 2 of tentacles there. It's already have protection from being discarded, so that's always a good thing to have at least 2 tentacles there. Thrashing Tentacle, getting wounded, also going back here. That's great. Of course, Thrashing Tentacle lost the fight, and that's okay, because that's another burden for Frodo. So he's already on 8 burdens. Got 1 from the event, got second one from Thrashing Tentacle losing skirmish. Only 2 resistance, and I know it will be pretty easy. Foul Tentacles already gives us another burden, so I just need to find a way to give 1 more. Opponent, seeing that he killed all of my tentacles, decides to go another side. And I decide not to play anything, because I know if I play those tentacles, he will do anything to lose to them or overwhelm them, just so that they will not return to that condition. So I know it's better to keep them here to be able, I need 3 to be able to play the event. That gives burden. So I decided to let him go on this side 8 and take my time to cycle through my deck more, find the last cards that I need. Also, I know that on the last side I will be able to draw 8 additional cards, so I don't have to do anything just to stop him on side 7 or 8. Pretty standard stuff, old Toby, just to draw another card. Playing Longbottom Leaf, just to get rid of the unnecessary cards. Finally getting the Frodo Pipe. Healing my companions with Aragorn's Pipe. Just to be safe, use that resources. As I said, you only need to survive to side 6, so no need to keep them. I'm playing Aragorn. I decided that even if he kill one of my companions with Enqua, it doesn't matter anymore, because the game one way or another ends next turn, so no need to keep him. I want to get rid of as many cards as I can, just to be sure to draw what I need to corrupt my enemy. I'm of course healing. Enemy will do his best to play as many goblins as possible. Here comes the troll with his chain, so I skip archery. No worry, even if this troll kills 2 of my companions now, it doesn't matter. The only thing I need is to survive this turn. I decide to play the event just to get rid of it. I know I can reconcile double shot that I don't need. And already I can see that I won. I have Cyrano, so I will be able to play my tentacles because the next side will be marsh. I have at least 3 tentacles, and that's exactly what I need to play Guided by One Purpose, which I have 2 of. Also, I could play them once more with Foul Things, so the game is won already. Now I only need to see what my enemy will do. He created the situation where all of his dwarves are stronger than Thrashing Tentacle. That is not a good thing. Playing against Tentacles, you probably want to have at least one companion that has 6 strength or less. But I guess with Defender +1 from Cyrano, that doesn't really matter. He can create a situation where he can just got 2 Thrashing Tentacles to one companion and still lose. So I draw additional 8 cards. All of my deck is drawn. Just playing 3 Tentacles, just to be able to play Guided by One Purpose. And that's it. That's well, maybe not the best way to win, but it's a win. You win by not really engaging with the enemy. You win by losing skirmishes. But hey, that's just the way the shadow corrupts. So thanks guys. If you want to try this deck, I will put it in the description, the link for this deck. One thing I would change after playing the tournament, I know that the meta is Moria heavy, so frying pans are great. One thing I would change is discard Ranger's Sword and put torches in this place, just to be able to counter Nazguls better. Also torches can be held by Boromir, so it's just a better card, I think, for this deck. Other than that, I think it works just as intended. So if you want to try, go for it. If you see table with me and Fellowship PC, expect to play against it. So if you want to practice that also, join me and let's have some fun, because that's the main purpose of this deck. It's to have fun, to play something other than meta, and just to get as much fun as you can from playing that. So thanks guys, I hope it will not be my last video. It is the first, but I hope it will be not last. And see you around on GEMP. Bye!